Hello, Sarah here. I'm here to have another conversation for the sake of ourselves. So, the conversation I'm about to have with you today is a conversation of taking stock and having awareness on what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. A few videos ago, a couple of times in these video series, I've talked about this idea of having a source document, this living document that can kind of hold the container of yourself and that you can have as a touch point in your life. And if you are making a source document, I highly recommend that you to put this conversation there, for you to actually put in what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and what are the areas that you're growing into, and taking stock, bringing some pause, some awareness, and to take stock in your life of who you are, and how you operate. And I guess I should preface all of this that we're not taking stock in order to change or alter any of this. We're all human. We all have a spectrum of attributes and traits. And, we have a wheelhouse of strengths and things that we're good at, or things that we have a proclivity for, or things that, come naturally or easy for us, or things that we've developed skills or experience in and some muscle around, and, things that are in our wheelhouse that it's like, okay, I can have confidence and assuredness that this is something I can do it well, I can tackle it, I can take it on. I know these are ways that I come from, I'm reliable in, I'm count-onable in these areas. And knowing that is really important for our groundedness, our confidence, great for when we work with people, of what they can count on us for, or where we can bring our leadership, where we can even mentor, teach, educate, give away, where we can, even with our strengths, we can still always expand and grow. It's not like we're limited, and just because we're good in an area doesn't mean we don't still tend the development and the skill of it. But having an awareness of what your strengths are can be really helpful in a multitude of ways, which we'll talk about in other episodes as well. But, just to even source from being clear and grounded and assured and confident in knowing I do have this wheelhouse of strengths. Every single one of us has our own wheelhouse of strengths right where you are. And, next year you might have more strengths. But for right now, here you are in this moment right now, live the life that you've lived, have the experiences that you've had, and develop the skills that you've developed. And you have a wheelhouse of strengths. And it's really great to get connected and related to it. It's really great for our empowerment, for our groundedness, for our confidence, for our assurance, and for us to know our value, that we bring something forth, and our capability, and that we are each very capable, and we all each have our unique spectrum of strengths. So, knowing our strengths and being aware of our strengths can have a lot of value. And then likewise, we each have weaknesses. We have gaps. We have things that are not our strengths. We have things that we grapple in, we struggle with, that doesn't come naturally to us, easy to us, or we don't have the skills already developed in. Again, not a problem. I'm not asking you for any of these weaknesses that you list out for you to alter or change it. Each of us is human. Each of us has strengths. Each of us has weaknesses. I don't think it's a fair expectation to expect any of us to not have weaknesses. We are not meant to be perfect. We are not, in my opinion, we are not meant to be able to do it all and all perfectly and effectively and great. We can pull on our strengths, and we can be accountable and know and responsible for our weaknesses. But knowing what our weaknesses are has a lot of value. So all I'm asking you to do today is to be aware and take stock of what these weaknesses might be for you, what your, areas that you grapple in, the areas that you're reliable and consistent in knowing that this isn't going to go naturally or easy, or it might take something, or you might be wobbly kneed in it, or it might just be even an area that I'd have not even enough skill to even approach. So again, knowing our weaknesses has a lot of value for ourselves, and knowing what, our expectations of ourselves, would be in reality versus having high expectations of ourselves and expecting ourselves to perform even in areas of our weaknesses, expecting to perform like it's a strength of ours. So, not like we can't still reach and learn and develop if we so choose, but it's not expected. This is an area, that you up until now and in your life, you don't have the skills in, or you grapple with something, or, you might not be wired that way. It just might not be an area that you will ever even be strong in and aren't even interested and invested in being strong in it. And that's okay. You're allowed to have weaknesses, and it doesn't mean anything about you. You have strengths, you have weaknesses, and you have areas that you're growing into. And all of your weaknesses do not need to be areas that you're growing into at all either. So you have these strengths, this wheelhouse of things that you have muscle in, things that, you're good at, things that you likely enjoy or you want to tackle, or that you can be countable for, or people know you for. And you have these weaknesses, these things that you grapple in, you struggle with, doesn't come easy to you. You don't have the skills around, you don't have the development in, you just don't even know how, or it would be overwhelming, or you don't even know where to start. And awesome, high five. You get to have weaknesses. You get to. Not asking you to do anything with these weaknesses other than take stock at what your weaknesses might be. And then take stock at what areas are you growing into. So some of these areas that are already deemed as your weaknesses, or some of them could even be your strengths, but are just, you're still looking to grow them. What are areas you're growing into? What are areas that you're, building skill into, challenging yourself with, wanting to grow into because you said, and that's important to you. You've noticed this one, either skill or attribute or trait is something that you want to adjust, or that you want some new ways and new perspective or new ways to interact or operate in. So it looks like I'm going to make this video short and sweet, which is a rarity for me, but I have a bunch of teenagers in the background that I keep getting interrupted with. So I am going to mostly leave the conversation just where we were. So we're in this conversation of what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? And what are the areas that I'm growing into? What am I taking on and being inside of a growth mindset with? And there's a lot of reasons of why this is important to have awareness to that we'll get into in further conversations. But taking time right now to take out that pen and paper, or to bring up that source document and list out for yourself, what are my strengths? What am I good at? What am I great at? What am I even decent at? What am I countable for? What am I reliable for? And these strengths can be like hard skills, like really specific skills that you have. They can be soft skills, more like ways of being and ways of interacting and connection. We all have a variety of kinds of strengths, and they're all valid. But it is great to notice, and you might even notice, you might notice some information when you notice all of your strengths. They might all kind of be related to certain areas and certain ways of being or certain attributes. Take a look. What are my strengths? And list them out. So in that document, on that pen and paper, in your notes app, list them out. What are your strengths? I challenge you to list out at least 25. And I do get that some of us, our internal state, some of us can really be really highly available with our strengths. We really know our strengths. We're really aware of our strengths. It's a strength of our own to know our strengths. We're really confident with our strengths, and it might come really easy to you to list out all your strengths. You already might be highly aware of all of your strengths and the things that you're good at, and for some people, that's not the case. For some people, their internal state or their internal dialogue doesn't notice their strengths. You might not even notice the things that come naturally to you, or the things that you've been complimented on, or the things that, you have done well with in your life. You might have a certain context or a certain framework that notices the negative first, that notices the weaknesses, that notices what you're not. And it might be a real challenge and a struggle to even notice what your strengths are. So I challenge each of you to write out at least 25 strengths. 25 strengths. I find that's a nice number that, the first couple start to come easy, and then it gets trickier and trickier and trickier. Well, really, I challenge you to list out 25 strengths. You can do it. I trust you. I have faith. And if you're struggling to come up with 25 strengths, ask the people around you. You can interview people in your life. You can interview up to 5 people, or you can interview any number you want. I just came up with a number, but interview people in your life. Interview people in different areas of your life that know different aspects of you. Interview somebody that's close with you in your family. Interview somebody that's at work or school. Interview somebody that's a teammate or somebody in like a hobby group. Interview somebody that's a friend of yours. Interview somebody that was a friend from, long ago and a friend from now. They'll have different perspectives and know different aspects about you. And you don't have to take anything that they say as true, but it just gives you some awareness or some other ideas of, what might be strengths of yours. Because some of us, things come so naturally that we might not even notice it as strength. We might just think that's just how everybody is. But you might be surprised that, we're all such unique humans that we all have quite a spectrum of strengths and weaknesses, and they can be very different from each other. And so we often notice people differently than we might notice ourselves. So asking the people around you can be really a supportive tool to bring in to notice your strengths. And then, what are your weaknesses? So write out my weaknesses. And again, this might be easier for some than others. And also, please bring your great relationship with yourself. You writing out your weaknesses is not a place to, flog yourself or beat yourself up for. Every person has weaknesses. Notice what your relationship with your weaknesses are. Notice what your relationship with just having weaknesses is. This might be a really hard conversation for you, or really challenging. You might, when you think about your weaknesses, you might go to a very disempowered place. You might go to a, feeling small or feeling ashamed or embarrassed. You might go to a really defensive or protective place. Generally speaking, a lot of us have, a funny, gnarly relationship with having weaknesses, with even just having weaknesses, let alone getting highly related to what our weaknesses are. And that's part of the value of this exercise, is just what does come up when you notice your strengths. What does come up when you notice your weaknesses? And you notice the dialogue that starts coming up. Notice the body sensations. Notice what comes easy and where there might be some resistance. Notice, what you might be judging about yourself or other people. You might even notice, things about other people, and comparing starts to come up. All of that's great. It's just, this is a really great activity to notice your internal state and to notice what your relationship is with your strengths, with your weaknesses, with yourself, with growth. So please bring that got your back best friend relationship with yourself when you're having this conversation, and bring compassion and understanding and arms around care. If at any point this exercise becomes too much, don't do it. Throw it away. You do not have to do this. I see that there is a lot of value for grounding yourself in, meeting yourself right where you are, so that you can have awareness in where you're at and who you are. You can advocate for yourself and articulate for yourself, and, build connection and relationships with, really level expectations on yourself that are supportive and encouraging for yourself and the people around you. So I find personally there's a lot of benefits coming from this, but if at any point there's a lot of discomfort or anything that doesn't work for you, please, you know yourself best. Walk away and throw this exercise away if you are finding yourself in any kind of distress. It can be challenging to be with ourselves and to be with our weaknesses from a neutral, observationally aware place, and build a relationship with ourselves as having weaknesses, and building a relationship that it's okay to have weaknesses. It's okay to be human. It's okay to meet myself right where I'm at. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to be flawed. It's okay to have areas I'm not good at or great at. It's okay to have areas that I'm not even bringing growth to. It's okay. Here we are, and here we are. And you have your strengths. You have your weaknesses. And you have your areas that you're growing into. And that I have found is across every human I've ever met. They have their strengths. they have their weaknesses, and they have their areas they're growing into. And the more that can be normal, the more we can build a relationship with ourselves that's normal, and we can bring neutrality and just observational awareness versus any kind of charge or upset or discomfort or protection or disempowerment. The more we can serve ourselves and be free to be ourselves and meet ourselves right where we are and support ourselves through advocating for ourselves and our needs and our wants and what works best for us. And then we can really expand what we're growing into and bringing a growth mindset to it. So, meet yourself right where you are. You do know yourself best, but there you are. You've listed out ideally up to 25 or more strengths and up to 25 or more weaknesses. And if you get stopped or you grapple in any of that, I invite you to interview people in your life, interview, people that are close to you in different areas of your life, and ask them like, hey, I'm doing this little exercise of self-awareness to get related to myself and to really know myself in ways that can support myself. And I really am out to know, without any kind of charge, just know from an observationally aware place, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? And I'd like your input. And, could you help me here? Could you help me? What do you see as my strengths? What do you see as my weaknesses? Or what do you see as the areas that, I'm inside of growth in? What do you see me working at or growing in? And, obviously make sure it's a trusted companion that you feel some safety with, and go forth and ask them to support you in this if you are struggling with getting up to your 25. And then again, just on that same list, as you put your strengths, you put your weaknesses, and then you can put areas that I'm growing into, areas I'm bringing growth to. What am I growing into? And write those out. What are you growing into? Are you growing into patience? Are you growing into understanding? Are you growing into compassion? Are you growing in learning a language? Are you growing in getting a certification? Are you growing in I don't know. We're all so personal. There's so many different examples I can bring. I go into system overload. But write out, what are you growing into? And if you don't know, what would you like to grow into? These can be, again, some of your strengths, some things that you've already listed as strengths that you want to expand in and you want to bring even more mastery to. You can put those in here. This could also be areas that you've already deemed weaknesses or areas you struggle at that, you see that, wow, if that area was different, if I had some, something new available to me there, wow, it'd make a real difference in my life. That would be worthwhile. Pick out some of those areas where there's, you struggle in or you grapple in, and put those in your areas of growth. There's nothing that you have to put here. This is you, that you get to say. You get to say the areas of growth you're inside of and what you're motivated for and where it would serve you. So pick your areas that you're growing into, that you either already notice you are growing into and that you're bringing a growth mindset to, and that you're practicing in and playing in and challenging yourself in, or learning new skills or developing yourself in. You can put that here. So there you go. You have your strengths, you have your weaknesses, and you have your areas that you're growing into. And I'm going to leave it there for today because I have a house full of teenagers in the background and it has been very distracting. And it's great. I love actually that they get to all be here and be celebrating the last week of the summer before back to school time kicks in. And I love it, but it does make it really tricky for me to stay focused with my very distractible brain. So enjoy being connected and related to yourself. You are a spectrum, multifaceted spectrum of a human being with a diverse array of strengths, weaknesses, and things that you're growing into, and all of it's perfect, and you get to be right where you are. So please meet yourself with grace and kindness and compassion and understanding and patience and love and all of the things, and have a fantastic relationship with yourself, but bringing awareness to the areas so that you can advocate and articulate and connect with the people around you and share yourself and be free to be yourself without having to hide away, without having to be embarrassed or ashamed, and just being really grounded and solid and confident and assured in who you are and what you are and the value that you do bring and the growth that you are inside of, because there you are and here you are. So well done. Great work. Go forth, and until next time, for the sake of ourselves. Bye for now.